Hey guys, Nicolas here, back to you in another video. With Spider-Man Far From Home already out in theaters, it's time for me to rank all the Spider-Man movies from worst to best, including Venom and Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse and the MCU Spider-Man and yeah, all the Spider-Man movies. So without further ado, let's get to the video. Coming up on number 9, what we have is Venom. Well, Venom, okay. Now, Venom wasn't that bad. Wasn't that good either. It was good, but not that good. And it was bad, but not that bad. It was bad and good at best. But, I decided to put this there. First of all, the story. The story could have done a little bit much better. The story will sound good and promising, but at the same time, it was very bad. And that at the same time, it was bad, although not terrible, and that could have done much better. The CGI effects have a mixed bag. Some people are saying that the CGI looks good. Some people are saying that it looks bad and that it kind of looks like Green Lantern. And plus, there was even an interview with Amy Pascal, the CEO of Sony, but she's no longer the CEO anymore. She's no longer the CEO anymore. Now she's working with Universal on other projects, and with Kevin the Man Foggy. Kevin Foggy, if you don't know, he's the owner and CEO of Marvel Studios and was the guy who started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yep, that's right. He was the guy who started the Marvel Cinematic Universe when Amy Pascal says, yes, Venom is in the MCU. Venom is in the MCU. And when Kevin Foggy showed his face, he was like very confused about Venom being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we thought it was going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We thought it was going to be an R-rated flick, and turns out that those things were a bunch of lies, and it just felt me that it just taken out of the movie. But the plus I can say is that the CGI looks good, although not perfect since it does have flaws, but it still hold up well. And plus, this movie is more like Catwoman, and I am not joking. This is like Marvel's version of Catwoman, with a world they're living in that, whether with or without Spider-Man wasn't even mentioned in this movie, not even one bit. Were there any good parts in this movie? Well, the special effects were really good. It does have flaws, but still kind of good. Tom Hardy does a really good job on playing Eddie Brock and Venom, the symbiotes, and yeah, and that's all I can say for the positives. That's all I got for positive, and half the story being good. But this does get me investigating in what Sony's about to plan next for their cinematic universe that they're planning for their Spider-Man cinematic universe. But with this movie, it could have done much better and couldn't gotten a free pass for being terrible. But no, they decided to just, yeah. But it does get me invested more on what's gonna happen for Sony Cinematic Universe as I'm planning. But still, kind of good, but kind of bad. Well, both good and bad at the same time. Much better than Catwoman. Coming up on number 8 on the worst Spider-Man movies is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Oh boy, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was voted as a terrible Spider-Man movie. Much worse than Spider-Man 3, but we'll get to that later. But anyways, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just so bad, it could have done much better, and I could have gotten a free pass from The Amazing Spider-Man 1 for being bad. Well, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, some people liked it and some others hated it, but with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was been receiving a lot of hate. I mean, like really a lot of hate. And Sony was even trying to set up their own Marvel Cinematic Universe for this movie, but they forgot about how to make a really good story. But I'm glad that Sony decided to shut down this universe, and plus, after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were already planning for The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4, a Sinister Six movie, a Black Cat movie, and even a Venom movie. And we did get a Venom movie, but this is not a part of this universe. This is a part of another universe that Sony's trying to set up. Yeah. But I'm glad Sony decided to shut this down, since it seemed like that Sony has not been learning their lesson about cramming too many villains in this movie. The reason why The Amazing Spider-Man failed was because the story was going around all over the place with, with Harry's story and Electro's story, or with Peter wanted to help Harry, but at the same time, he wants to be with Gwen Stacy, but then he remembers Captain Stacy's promise, which made no sense. And yeah, the story is just all over around the place, and total villain overload. And it seemed like that Sony had not been learning their lesson about cramming too much villains. But you're probably wondering, Nicholas, is there any good parts in this movie? Yes, there is a good part. The Spider-Man suit looks pretty amazing, and did improve from the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. And yeah. And with the CGI being really amazing, and I really like the camera angle shots for the CGI, and how it does very well, and with the lighting and the fighting choreography and the action scenes and the CGI, very amazing. And that's all I got for positives. But overall, skip this movie. So then, coming up to number 7, we have The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, this is not terrible, to say the least. Not as terrible as the second one. But, well, I really enjoyed this movie. Now, even though that this movie does have flaws, well, like, for example, we get to find out about more of Peter's parents. But I like to explore more about Peter's parents, since we never get to explore Peter's parents in the Raimi trilogy. But we did get to explore Peter's parents, about them being secret agents. And yes, that was even in the comics, in the main Marvel continuity. And yes, that was in the comics. We get to explore more about Peter's parents being secret agent. Well, we get to explore more about Peter's parents. Explore about Peter's parents. And yes, Peter's parents were even in the comics. No joke. And, well, I really like this kind of version of Spider-Man having web shooters, with the web shooters being really amazing, half the story being really good, and with Andrew Garfield and Emma Watson, well, they have great chemistry together on screen, but with the love relationship, could have done much better, and with Gwen Stacy not being that kind of good. And, well, let's see what else. The Lizard. The Lizard had no character arc. It was just only there, just only for the fanboys. And that Sony just want them to put him there because, they want him to appear on the big screen for the first time. The Lizard has no character arc. And I'm also aware about the plot being where he wants to transform everyone to giant lizards. I'm aware that that was in the comics. But overall, the movie was kind of good. Although I don't know which recommendation that I wouldn't. If you want to watch it, go ahead. But if you don't, it's okay. And then coming up to number 6, we have a Spider-Man 3. And it was voted as a letdown, and it started a letdown of the Spider-Man movies. And of course, it didn't do that much. And of course, this went to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy going downhill, and of course, with Sam Raimi, that was going to direct Spider-Man 4, but unfortunately that was cancelled because Raimi felt like that Sony did not care about him that much, and did not care about that much of the project, and that the project wasn't going as expected would, and saying good luck with your reboot, which you've been playing to, and with chairman of, and with the CEO of Sony, Amy Pascal, said thank you for not spending all that money and all that. But unfortunately, yeah, which led to the reboot of the series, which is The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man 3, this this movie is basically just an infamous example about how this movie should have ended a trilogy. The story was just all over the place, and plus the reason why this movie failed was total villain overload with three villains like Venom, Sandman, and the new Green Goblin. And yeah, overall with the story just going on with too many subplots like Harry's story arc and Sandman's story arc and Venom's story arc and Peter trying to get Mary Jane to, for both of them to get married, which is, like that. And could have done much better, but the CGI looks really amazing, although a few of them looks very finished. On some CGI designs look really bad. Like Venom's design basically just looks really bad and doesn't look anything that good. And with Sandman, when he was melting, when Spider-Man killed him with the symbiote on him, it just felt unfinished. It kind of felt and looked like unfinished. The CGI looks really amazing, even though it does seem dated, but it still looks really good. But overall, with the story, it's just really bad, and I could have done much better. I wish that this could have focused more on Sandman more than like Venom and Green Goblin. Plus, as the director said, Raimi never wanted three villains. He wanted Sandman to be the main villain, and with Harry's story arc being a conclusion with his death. But with the studio and Avi Arad just keep pushing him to put Venom. Wow. Raimi could have just fired Avi Arad, or even Sony could have just fired him. But unfortunately, they did not, because Avi Arad is like the brains. And Avi Arad, he's not that interested in storytelling as long as there is money involved. Yeah. But to be honest, I actually kind of like Spider-Man 3. Now, despite its production problems, Spider-Man 3 overall was good, although it was not the best, in my opinion. And even though it does have bad moments, a lot of bad moments, but by the end of the day, you can just like the movie. Just like what Matt Dominus said in his Godzilla 1998 film review. But anyways, this movie overall was just basically, well, okay but really bad at best. The good parts that I really liked about this movie is the CGI, the CGI effects, the swinging animations that look really good. Of course, Sam and Sandman's story arc, which we can relate to, and of course, Peter and Mary Jane's positive relationship before it turns into a negative relationship, and that it just turned into like with Mary Jane being an unlikable girlfriend in the movie until like in the second act, with her being an unlikable girlfriend in the second act. Overall, I don't know which recommended on the taste, but overall, just rent this movie if you could. And then coming up on number 5 on the good list of Spider-Man movies, we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is, wow, I really enjoyed this movie, and plus the animation looks really nice and feels like a comic book coming to life, and with and I really like how the movie begins with Peter Parker mentioning about his origin story and blah blah blah, and that he's been Spider-Man for 10 years. But not only that, he also like referenced the emo Peter Parker dance from Spider-Man 3. I really like how they introduce Miles Morales in this movie, and plus Miles, he has only been in comics for 7 years, ever since 2011, and and plus this movie was very amazing. The Stanley cameo was also very good, and if you want to check out the Stanley cameo,
Fit.
I'm going to miss him.
Yeah.
We were friends, you know.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
yeah, one of my favorite Stanley cameos in Marvel movies and Spider-Man movies and comic book movies and superhero films, including like the one in Spider-Man 3 and um and and others. Like the Stanley cameos are pretty amazing, and they're like one of my most favorite cameos is the Spider-Man 3 cameo, and then the Amazing Spider-Man where he's listening to some opera music, and of course in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse here, and even in other kinds of Marvel movies. And yeah, I mean, this was so sad. This is one of the best Stanley cameos ever. R.I.P. Stanley. Yeah, anyways, the voice acting is really good. We got the voice talents from Jake Johnson, Shamik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, Nicolas Cage, Kamiko Glenn, and John Mulaney were providing their voices for the Spider characters and for the heroes. And basically, yeah, they did a really great job on the voice acting. The voice acting is pretty amazing. The story is really amazing. And I really like how this brings the message about you can wear the mask and others. And basically, with directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller saying that they wanted to make a movie that is inspired for that can be inspirational for kids about being good people. This movie that teaches kids how to be better people, and basically, yeah. And overall, this movie was really amazing. The animation looks really nice and looks like a comic book coming to life, but also kind of reminds me of Spider-Man: The New Animated Series. If you want to check out my review on Spider-Man: The New Animated Series, link in the description. So yeah, overall, this film was really amazing. The voice acting is amazing. We got villains like Kingpin, the Prowler, and Dr. Octavius, the Dr. Olivia Octavius, the Dr. Octopus Olivia Octavius version. I think she's like the sister. Well, there's no such thing as the Otto Octavius in Earth 1610, which that's basically where Miles lives. Well, unfortunately, in the comics, there is. Yeah, and she's basically just a made-up character, but fortunately, that did work, and I really like how the plot twist where we get to see Aaron Davis as the Prowler, as he was in the Ultimate Comics. And coming up to number 4, we have SpiderMan Homecoming, with it being the third reboot and the third Spider-Man trilogy. But also, this is the Spider-Man in the MCU ever since we got Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War. So basically, this movie is about Spider-Man. He wants to become an Avenger, and Tony Stark says to take it slow and don't do anything what he would do. Basically, yeah. But this Spider-Man's character arc is about being like Iron Man Jr., which that's what his popularity of the character is in the MCU and in Spider-Man and Marvel. Basically, I really the special effects were really good as amazing. We also got Michael Keaton as the Vulture. He also plays Batman in the Tim Burton Batman trilogy, and basically, and I really like how this was so nice and true to the source material, and even though it changed the source material, but whatever it is, it's probably for a good reason. But anyways, this is really great, and I really like how Michael Keaton plays the Vulture, one of Spider-Man's first villains, and one of another famous Spider-Man villain. And I really like how they made the Vulture very scary, and I really like the technology that the Vulture has used. And I really like how the Spider-Man suit that looks really amazing. The CGI, even though it does feel CGI, it's not like Green Lantern, but it's good. It's still good. It was fun, and they look really good. And the spider suits that look really good, and especially with the homemade suit that does look CGI at the same time, but then at the same time it's homemade, but it's still really good, and this is still really fun to watch, and it's a really great movie. Oh, you knew that this movie was going to be on this list. Spider-Man Far From Home. And oh my god, it was really amazing. The characters are so likable, and plus I really like how, how it was so relatable for Peter that he had lost his mentor and friend and father figure, Tony Stark, in Avengers Endgame. And basically that this movie was so much fun to watch, and I probably enjoyed it more than Spider-Man Homecoming, a sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, basically taking place 5 years after the events of Spider-Man Homecoming, and taking place 5 years after the events of Avengers Infinity War, but also taking place right after the events of Avengers Endgame. And where Peter is just very sad that he lost his mentor, friend, and father figure, Tony Stark. And a lot of people missing Tony Stark, and the man who started the MCU, Iron Man, as one of the most popular characters in the MCU. But anyways, the illusion scenes were really amazing. The CGI was pretty amazing. The cinematography was pretty amazing. The characters were really amazing. The villain, Mysterio, was pretty amazing. Jake Gyllenhaal does a really great job on playing a villain, Mysterio. He does a really great job, and this is his first time being in a Spider-Man movie. When originally he was going to be in Spider-Man 2, after when Tobey Maguire was hurting his back on the movie, I cannot remember which movie, but he hurt his back on another movie that he was working on. And then later after that, Tob was almost replaced by Jake Gyllenhaal, but Tob was back. And well, let's see what else. And now Jake Gyllenhaal is now playing Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home overall is just really amazing, really fun, and really good. Overall, this is a movie that I will recommend you to watch. This is a really fun Spider-Man sequel, and that takes place after the events of Spider-Man Homecoming, 5 years after the events of Spider-Man Homecoming, and taking place right after the events of Avengers Endgame. It means the conclusion to the MCU's Phase 3, as we thought that this was going to be the beginning of Phase 4, but it turns out it was going to be the end of Phase 3, the conclusion to Phase 3, the conclusion to the Infinity Saga. Well, Avengers Endgame is more an official conclusion to the Infinity Saga, more than Far From Home. And plus, we even got well, not Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, we did get Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Not that was it. We got the Elementals with villains like Sandman, Hydro Man, and Molten Man. Coming up on number 2, we have Spider-Man 2. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 overall is just really amazing. It's just a really fun sequel with exciting characters, real likable characters, a really great villain, and one of my other favorite childhood movies growing up. And this movie overall, it had Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. And as you all know, Alfred Molina does a really great job on capturing the character and does have a really great voice for voice acting for villains and others. And overall, the movie was just real amazing. The characters were fun. The characters were likable, and this is a really fun movie overall, and just really good, and just having great special effects. With the special effects, well, not the best now. It does seem dated in some areas, but it does look good. Looking back at the special effects now, they do seem dated, but they are good. They still hold up well today. And overall, this film is still really amazing. The film was like Superman 2, and the movie overall, it just ends on a positive note where Mary Jane leaves John Jameson, with John Jameson being an unlikable character, and it's just there, and all that kind of things. And overall, it's still a really great movie, and this is still a fun film to watch. Coming up on number 1, we have one of the very first Spider-Man movies, but also one of my favorite childhood movies, and that got me into Marvel movies, Spider-Man 2002, which was basically, basically this was a fun film ever since we've gotten movies like Batman and Robin, which that totally completely suck. But now we got great films like Blade, X-Men, and even this Spider-Man. Yeah, this movie overall was really good, and it was basically very fun to watch, with the CGI being amazing, although it does seem dated in some areas, but it still holds up well today. The CGI looks good for the time, and still holds up well today. The story was pretty amazing, and I really like how Peter Parker is relatable. Tobey Maguire does a really great job on the acting. He does a really amazing job. Kristen Dunst does a really great job on playing on Mary Jane Watson, the girl next door, and with Rosemary Harris as Aunt May, she does a really great job on playing Aunt May, and with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Plus, with James Franco as Harry Osborn, as he is more relatable and more likable than the one from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and with William Dafoe, who plays a menacing Green Goblin and does a really great job. The Green Goblin suit does look like does look something more like a Power Rangers villain, but with a comic book / superhero movie, it just gets away with it, which is a good thing, at least. It doesn't look that good for the time. It still doesn't hold up well, but some people compare the suit to become a Power Rangers villain. As a kid, the suit scared me, but after rewatching it, I see how silly the suit was, and how this kind of looks more like a Power Rangers villain more than the Green Goblin. But the character at least does keep it true to the source material. The glider was real amazing. The CGI overall, like I said, was really amazing. Sam Raimi does a really great job on this movie ever since that he was known for making films like the Evil Dead trilogy, Darkman, and Drag Me to Hell. That's all for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So please subscribe, add a comment below, and tell me what you think about this video, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Overall, yeah. But anyways, overall, Spider-Man 2002 was a really great movie, and I really enjoyed it. And, this is a movie I recommend you watch. But anyways, yeah. That's basically it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please subscribe, hit the notification bell, add a comment down below, like, share, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video, and hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you for my spectacular Spider-Man review. And not only that, I'll be seeing you more for more of my DC film review retrospective reviews, but also for another ranking of all the MCU movies from worst to best.